Have you ever looked at derivatives and thought, there's no way I'm going to understand this? Well, you're not alone. For thousands of students, derivatives are the moment calculus suddenly becomes scary. All the strange symbols, the limits, the notation, the formulas, it looks like an entirely new language. But what would you say if I told you that a derivative is just a fancy way of answering one very simple question? How fast is something changing right now? That's it. If you've ever looked at a speedometer, watched a stock price rise, or noticed your phone battery changing, then you've already thought about derivatives and didn't even know it. In this video, I'm going to show you that derivatives aren't a collection of mysterious rules for you to memorize. They're a simple idea that mathematicians built an elegant language around. By the end of this video, you'll understand what a derivative really is, where it comes from, and why it's actually one of the most intuitive ideas in all of mathematics. Let's begin. Now imagine you're using your phone. You glance at the battery indicator, it's at 100%. Now a few minutes later, it's at 98, and then 95, and finally 91. The battery keeps dropping. Now here's the big question. Exactly how fast is your battery draining right now? Not over the last hour, not over the last 10 minutes, not even the last second. At this exact instant. Now that sounds impossible. After all, don't we need time to pass before we can measure how much the battery has changed? How can we talk about a rate of change if no time has passed at all? For centuries, this seemed like an impossible question. Then mathematicians discovered something remarkable. Instead of trying to measure the battery drain over zero time, they measured it over smaller and smaller and smaller time intervals, maybe over 1 minute, then 10 seconds, then 1 second, then 1/10 of a second, then 1/100th. Each time, the average rate becomes a better estimate of what's happening at that exact moment. Eventually, those estimates settle toward one number. That number tells us the battery's instantaneous rate of change. Mathematicians gave that number a name, the derivative. So a derivative isn't a complicated formula. It's simply the answer to one of the natural questions. How fast is something changing? Right now. And once you understand that idea, everything else in calculus begins to make sense. Now, suppose that I ask you a different question. Let's assume that someone hands us this curve. It's clearly not a straight line. It's constantly changing direction. Now, suppose that I ask you to find its slope at exactly this point. That might seem like a strange question. After all, how can a single point have a slope? Didn't they teach us that only a line has a slope? Don't we need 2 points to define it? So how can we possibly measure the slope of a curve at 1 point? Let's exploit an incredibly clever observation here. Instead of trying to measure the slope at 1 point, let's measure the slope between two nearby points. This is something we already know how to do. Choose 1 point on the curve, then choose another point a little farther along. Now, connect them with a straight line. This is called a secant line. Its slope is easy to calculate. Rise over run. Now here's the truly brilliant part. Move the second point closer. We notice that the secant line changes. Move it even closer again, and again, and again. As the 2 points get closer together, something remarkable happens. The secant line begins to rotate. It starts looking more and more like it is just touching the curve. Eventually, the 2 points become unimaginably close together. The secant line has become what we call a tangent line. And the slope of that tangent line is exactly the slope of the curve at that point. But there's one problem. How close is close enough? No matter how closely we choose the 2 points to each other, we can always find a point between them, and therefore we could always choose something smaller. This is precisely why mathematicians didn't actually pick any tiny distance. Instead, they identified it as dt, and they let the distance approach zero. Not equal to zero, just approaching zero. This is where the idea of a limit comes in handy. The limit lets us imagine a second point being a distance h from the first point and moving closer and closer without ever actually arriving. As it does, the distance between the points tends to zero, and the slope of the secant settles towards one number. That number is the slope of the tangent line, the derivative. So a derivative isn't another formula to memorize. It's simply the slope of a curve at one point. And limits give us a beautiful way of discovering that slope by looking at secant lines over shorter and shorter distances until the answer reveals itself. Now that we understand what a derivative really is, let's learn how to calculate one. At first, mathematicians really did use the limit definition every single time. It works. It's beautiful. But it's also a lot of work. Imagine calculating hundreds of derivatives this way. It would take forever. Fortunately, mathematicians noticed something remarkable. Every time they used the limit definition, the same patterns kept appearing again and again and again. Eventually, they realized they didn't have to start from scratch every time. They could create a set of simple rules. Those rules are what you'll find in every calculus textbook, and they're surprisingly easy. Let's start with the simplest function imaginable, a constant. Suppose f of x is equal to 7. No matter where you look, the graph is perfectly flat. It isn't increasing and it's not decreasing. The slope is 0 everywhere because it's perfectly flat. So the derivative is simply 0. Now that's pretty easy. Now let's try a slightly more complicated function. F of x equals to x. This graph raises exactly 1 unit for every 1 unit you move to the right. Its slope never changes. It's always 1. We can now verify that by plugging it into our limit definition of a derivative. We put in all the appropriate functions, and we find that after a simple calculation, the slope and the derivative is in fact equal to 1. Since we're on the roll now, let's look at the next function. F of x equals to x squared. This graph is not a straight line, and it's not constant. Near the left, it's pretty flat. As we move further to the right, it becomes steeper and steeper. The slope keeps changing. So we don't expect our slope to be either 0 or 1. So plugging it into our definition of the derivative, finding all the appropriate functions, the computation is a little bit more challenging, but after all the dust settles, we find that it's now equal to 2x. Now, calculating derivatives using the limit definition for higher powers of x becomes very challenging and very aggravating the higher the powers go. But we notice something very interesting here. The derivative of 1 is equal to 0. The derivative of x is equal to 1. The derivative of x squared equals to 2x. Derivative of x cubed, 3x squared. And we notice that the derivative is always 1 power less than the actual function. That is a major discovery, and it allows us to circumvent the definition of a derivative and obtain the derivative in a very simple way. Finally, we notice something extremely interesting. The derivative is not just the slope of a tangent line. It is also a function itself. And that, as it turns out, becomes extremely useful in sciences and mathematics and leads to fields such as differential equations, allowing us to study complex mathematical and physical systems in life, physical, and health sciences.